inside your ugly.
All right, folks, we are back. And I've got a fresh list of callers. We're going to go to Chris, Mark, Justin, and Steven, hopefully in the next two segments. But first, I want to play this clip that's actually at rjharris2010.com. We had it pulled up already for both shows, the Alex Jones show and this one. I just haven't played it. This is what I'm talking about. This is Representative King talking about mandatory drug testing for America's citizens. After all, if you're not doing anything, what do you have to hide? Hit it.
Is a point where it raises the transaction cost so high that drug smuggling, bringing it into the United States, would get so costly that it would cease. That's one thing that we can do. And another thing that we could do would be to turn up the drug testing in the United States. Thinking of it in these terms. If every employer had a drug-free workplace, if every employer enforced a drug-free workplace policy, if they allowed, if the employers actually initiated drug testing within the workforce in 4 different categories, if they had pre-employment testing, so let's just say at the HR department, if one sits down for a job interview, and the employer interviews them and they come to this conclusion that they like to hire them, and they say, all right, I want you to come to work for me on Monday morning, but conditional to this. I'm going to have to run your numbers and your data through E-Verify to make sure that you're legal. And the second thing that you'll have to do is comply with the drug test. So I'll set you up. You can be with we've got this little clinic here that works with us, and we'll run you over there. You can do the test. You pass the test. You pass the E-Verify. You can go to work on Monday morning, punch the time clock. Congratulations. That would be a good process. Some companies do this. In fact, many companies in Iowa do this, with the exception of the E-Verify component. They have to actually hire them before they can use E-Verify, and that needs to change, Madam Speaker. But the pre-employment drug test is an important tool, and employers can, with that, screen their employees so that they are hiring drug-free employees, at least at the moment that they hire them. 3 other categories of drug testing need to fall into this. That post-accident testing. If you have an employee and he's involved in an accident of any kind, whether it's his or her fault or not, if there's a personal injury, if there's a property damage, then an employer needs to have a policy, a workplace drug testing policy that will test that employee on the basis that if there's an accident, there's a sign there that's an indicator. So
if there's an accident, you must be a drug addict.
Testing, you'd have post-accident testing, you'd have to have reasonable suspicion testing, and that is when you have trained supervisory personnel that are qualified, that can watch the behavior patterns of the employees, and under that legitimate evaluation,
all right,
send those employees off for a drug test. This guy
wants everybody to be drug tested. All employers must do it. Let's just shut this idiot off. I mean, give me a break, folks. Oh, so to have a job, you'll have to be drug tested, and then in the case of an accident, you'll be drug tested again. And why don't we just make you piss in a cup every day? That'd be a good thing. We'll just run it through, and anything comes up, you're fired. Oh, you know what? Fired's not good enough. Let's jail them. Unbelievable, folks. I mean, mandatory drug testing for everybody. That's what they want. All right, let's jump to Chris in New Jersey. Chris, you're on the line.
Hey, Jason, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You got it.
I hate to keep bringing up the swine flu, but I just had I hadn't heard anything really local as far as the fear-mongering goes. It's always been on a national or international level. Mm-hmm. Well, I was flipping through the stations on local radio, and they mentioned a new case in central New Jersey, but then she followed with something interesting. She said, the location is highly confidential. We cannot say where she is. So I took that as, well, it could be anyone, you know?
Exactly.
I mean,
if it even exists. If it even exists. Yeah. If it even exists. They want to put it out there and say, it could be anywhere. It could be anyone. We've had 2 cases where people have died, and then you find out neither of those cases pertain to American citizens. If you were listening earlier, the woman on Colbert said that the swine flu originated from the United States and then migrated to Mexico, and then said if you believe that the government, she was talking about the Indonesian prime minister, that the government might have made this virus, then it was the Jews. I mean, it's sickening, disgusting, and repulsive.
absolutely. And I don't know which, three-letter gang is worse at this point, but between the CDC and the WHO, I just want to read a real quick segment from Bloomberg yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
The swine flu may affect at least one-third of the world's 6 billion population within the next year. KG Fukuda, the WHO's Assistant Director, General Health Security and Environment, said in video broadcast from Geneva to a conference of Asian ministers in Bangkok today. Even if the illness appear relatively mild at the individual level, the global population level adds up to enormous numbers. And then Besser goes on to say, countries that haven't seen cases should prepare for outbreaks from the CDC. I mean, they just keep going with it. I mean, it seems to sizzle and then it keeps coming back up.
Well, the WHO put out some hype yesterday saying up to 2 billion people could be infected with the swine flu. And then they're saying on top of, from this death of this woman, this 33-year-old woman, they start, in fact, let's bring that YouTube clip up because we got to play it. They start off saying the second case of a swine flu death in the United States has occurred. And then literally 15 seconds later, they say, well, the doctors fell short of saying it was actually the swine flu that did it. Meanwhile, they're saying we still might declare a pandemic. Oh, this woman died. It might die down during the summer, but it'll be back this winter just in time for your delicious Baxter vaccination. I mean, and then Baxter comes out. When's this article? It's out of the Prague Daily. This is 2 days ago, May 6th, saying that all those vaccines that they launched in 14 separate countries, including the Czech Republic, which called them out on it, that wasn't for human use. Those were all for tests. They would have never, ever, ever shipped out a vaccine to 14 different countries with live avian flu in it. All right, let's play this clip, and I thank you for the call, Chris. Go for it. AP.
A 33-year-old school teacher from a Texas border town has been confirmed as the second death in the United States of a person with swine flu.
Confirmed.
Judy Trunnell had recently given birth to a healthy baby boy. She'd been hospitalized since April 19th. And Texas health officials have stopped short of saying that the flu caused the woman's death.
Stop it. Did you hear that? Bring it back. Bring it back to that point again. Texas health officials fell short of saying the woman actually died from the swine flu. This was a person who had all sorts of health problems, all sorts of complications beforehand. Play it again, Jaron.
Since April 19th. And Texas health officials have stopped short of saying that the flu caused the woman's death.
The person did have underlying chronic health conditions.
Oh.
So there are extenuating factors there as well.
Oh.
Classes at Trunnell's school have been canceled until Monday.
Boom. She had underlying chronic health problems. Underlying chronic health problems. That doesn't stop them from putting her face all over the place. You see, they don't care about you. They want to exploit you even in death. They want to exploit this woman's death to cause more death and more misery in this country and around the world. Period. Period. And, that's why you have this disgusting CFR witch on Colbert after she puts on, she writes an article for Newsweek, and the cover of it is this scary-looking pig snout because this is a pig problem. This is what happens when you have pig farms. See, this is another reason why they're going to try to regulate your food. They'll say, oh, those pig farms, they're on those organic farms, and they don't go through the right process. We could all die. We're going to die. Then she attacks Lou Dobbs, one of the only people in the mainstream media, if not the only guy, that really tries not to spin the news, that tells the truth. She attacks him and then throws in, oh, it's not really clear whether this Indonesian thinks that the government did it or the Jews. The Jews? Give me a break. All right, let's go to Mark in Georgia. Mark, you're on the line.
God bless you, sir. I got to thinking... I guess you know what I would refer to if I were to coin the term Mussolini's comeuppance. And the thing is, here's the quandary that we face, is that as long as we have the resources to carry out some kind of an uprising, if the mentality is not there to have one, and when the mentality will come from the lack of the resources to be able to do something.
Well, that would be terrible if we actually let it get to the point where they're doing gun roundups and people who are, Second Amendment and militia types don't do something about it. But you know what? One of the clips we played yesterday was Max Kaiser talking about the economic collapse and really how we have become